everyone. Sorry, my computer cut out for a second there. We're just going to give it another minute to let a couple more people come in, and then we'll get going. All right, we have a very exciting little episode today. I know we were out for, we were just trying to figure it out. I think we were out for 2 weeks with some big Glossy events. So happy to be back. Hello, and welcome to Glossy's weekly beauty debrief here on LinkedIn. I'm Lexi Lebsack, West Coast correspondent at Glossy, and I'm here with a bunch of my colleagues, Tatiana Pyle, managing editor of Glossy, Emily Jensen, Glossy's senior reporter, Courtney Marabella, Glossy's social media and audience manager, and Jill also popped on for a few minutes, our wonderful editor-in-chief. Welcome, everybody. So this past week has been really big for data. And of course, there are so many pieces of data coming out because we just finished the first half of the year. So primarily, these insights and research will be around the first 6 months of the year, and they have been analyzed and distributed from a variety of market research companies. So today we're going to be diving into some of these reports from Dash Hudson, which had some really interesting data from Nielsen IQ as well, big market research company. Circana, Launch Metrics, really interesting findings here, and we've got 30 minutes, so let's dive in. Emily, let's start with you. I know you are covering today the latest numbers from market research company Circana. What did you learn? What did they release about the size and growth of the beauty industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lexi. And Circana, just for those who don't know, as you said, it's a market research company. They look at consumer behavior across a couple different sectors, beauty being a big one, but they also look at like food and beverage, alcohol, all kinds of things. But they just published earlier this month a new report on the prestige beauty sector, comparing the first half of 2024 to that same period in 2023. And what they found is that, probably no surprise to anyone listening, is that the prestige beauty market is growing. It grew 8% to reach $15.3 billion in sales for this first half. And again, that's for prestige beauty. So there's a comparison here to the mass sector where sales are a bit more flat. And I think the big winner from this report that they released is that fragrance is the fastest growing category in the prestige beauty sector, which again, for those of you listening, it's probably not a huge surprise. I know you've done some reporting on this as well in the past, Lexi, about the growing fragrance market.
It just won't stop. It won't slow down. It's crazy.
I know. It's never ending. Like every day there's some like crazy new release or new trend on perfume talk. And what Circana has found is that dollar sales were up 12% for the first half, again, of 2024 compared to 2023 for fragrance. And what they noticed too is actually very interesting, is that it's kind of happening at the two extremes. So it's the higher end of the fragrance market is really going up, and that includes some of these releases that are more in like the luxury category. We're also seeing a lot of like extrays and more intensified perfumes coming out from some of these brands recently that are more in that higher price point, like $300, even $500. But they were also seeing a lot of growth at the lower end of the market. So like mini sizes and body sprays. And so a lot of body sprays or body mists, from like Sol de Janeiro, as most of you have probably seen, have been very popular. Those are usually like under $25, at least, under $50. And according to Circana, sales for those more than doubled compared to the first half of 2023. There's also interest in the dupe market of fragrance, which some of you probably get targeted Instagram ads for and TikTok influencer posts for. So fragrance is the big one. At the other end, like makeup is still the largest category in prestige beauty overall, but it's had the slowest growth. So it grew 5% in this period. And particularly that growth was seen among lip products. So like lip oils. I know we've seen a lot of those like lip oils and glosses coming out from like Summer Fridays and Rhode and Rare Beauty in the past couple of months. Those are having a big uptick. What was also interesting to me is skincare and hair care were also growing at 7 and 10% respectively. So, kind of in between the fragrance and makeup. But where those categories we're seeing growth specifically is for skincare, it's the body care sector, like in that premium body care. Again, I think we've all noticed a lot of launches in that more premium body care, like Rare Beauty extending into body care. We're seeing a lot more of these brands at Sephora. And then similarly for hair care, it was also in that prestige category or like premium category where they were seeing growth. According to Circana, hair products with prices above $30 grew at 3 times the rate of the lower priced items. And that now accounts for 25% of unit sales in the category, whereas they accounted for just 15% 3 years ago. And again, we've covered, I think, on previous LinkedIn Lives and, in our reporting, a lot of these like hair care launches coming out in recent months as well, including like some of these celebrity hair care lines like, Beyonce's and whatnot. So that's really interesting. And I think, we'll see what happens for the rest of the year, but certainly the trend here is that nothing is slowing down. All the sectors are growing, but especially fragrance and especially in this kind of premium category.
Wow, that's so interesting. I had looked over this before, but I think I missed the part about hair products with the average prices of $30 growing 3 times the amount of lower price. That's so surprising to me because I feel like there are so many new drugstore mass hair care brands that are hitting the market right now, but it feels like consumers are turning more to the expensive stuff. That's so fascinating.
I know. I guess it's like, I think for me, what my sense of it is like, I've covered this in, the past couple of years, like this term is getting like thrown around too much, but it's that skinification of hair care that, it used to be like really most people, I think primarily or only bought from the drugstore or like the mass market. It wasn't really a premium category for your shampoos and, conditioners, but now it's like, there's this much broader spectrum, especially with the scalp care market. There's all of these like oils and treatments, and people are, buying products for their hair that kind of looks like this skincare that they've already been primed to buy, where there's like multi-steps and you're looking for these specific ingredients and treatments.
That's so true. Okay, I have one little comment here on all of this, which is that the body sprays also, I don't know if anyone else on the call, please share your POV. I feel like the body spray is just like eternally surprising to me. And then you think back on it and it's like, when were body sprays so popular? And it's like such a Y2K thing. Yeah. It's like body spray and lip gloss. Like when I was in high school, that was it, right? And so it's like so funny that we see all these returns to the Y2K fashions, but then also the body spray and the lip gloss, which I think is like just so fun. It's like, it reminds me of the Victoria's Secret body sprays.
Yes. Fun. I was just going to say it's the Victoria's Secret mall sprays. Yeah. And I think my sense about this is like, we talked, I think, the last couple of weeks with our colleague Sarah about the tween beauty market. And I feel like body sprays, they didn't talk about this in Circana specifically. When they say younger, does that mean like teen and tween? But my feeling is that, like for a tween, that is like a more price or like age appropriate thing to buy is like a body spray or a lip gloss, where it's like, it's not really like makeup. It's kind of entry level in both ways.
Yeah. Well, Emily, why do you think that we're seeing growth like this continued growth at both ends of the sort of spectrum with fragrance, the eau de parfum and the parfum, very expensive, and then the, very affordable body spray? Why do you think that's happening? You're such a fragrance expert.
Well,
You are.
For a piece I wrote recently, a fragrance developer told me, like, she was like, you never want to be in the middle of the price point. You want to be at the high end or the low end, because you kind of get lost in the sauce if you're in the middle. And it's like both losing like that desirability you get with like the luxury, and it's losing that kind of entry price point, which I thought was very interesting. So I think with like the high end, I think we've seen more name recognition for these more higher end scents, like the Baccarat Rouge, like the Le Labos, like the Kilians, like people on Perfume Talk and, Instagram and other online forums are talking about them. And so they have this like desirability now, like people know them, and they're becoming more accepting of the fact that like, well, if I want a good product, that's what it costs. It's kind of like, I think it's a value proposition at both the high end and the low end. Like if you're going for the high end, people want to feel like I'm getting bang for my buck. I'm getting a long lasting, powerful scent. I'm getting something that is really high quality, and they're willing to spend that. And again, that $300 is a lot. It's still a lot more accessible, maybe providing more value than like a $5,000 designer bag. At the lower end of the market, I think, again, it's like the body spray mist. That's like a very accessible point. If you haven't dipped your toe into fragrance, or I think what we see a lot from consumers is that they want like a wardrobe of fragrances now. They don't just want to have like their one signature fragrance. So getting like a mini size or a body mist lets you have that like wardrobe of fragrances without, completely blowing all of your money.
That makes perfect sense. That's an interesting point about not wanting to be in the middle too.
Yeah. Like that $150 is like a tougher point to be, it seems.
That's so interesting for fragrance, how we're either seeing success, like you talked about, in the more luxury prestige market, but then also on the end of the spectrum, more mass market. So as it relates to hair and body care, why do you think we're seeing premiumization kind of like efforts right now in those two categories?
I think it's kind of a similar thing where like consumers they're primed to look for this now in their hair and body care. Like the body care launches that I've seen, a lot of them are, again, using that same language we see in skincare. So they have like retinol in them. They have more like firming. They have like vitamin C. They have these additional benefits that consumers have already decided, like, yeah, I'm willing to spend $50 for retinol in my face, face skincare. So I guess I'll also do it for my body care. Why not? And I think you're seeing at Sephora more like attention and kind of shelf space given to this body care sector. The packaging is elevated as well. It's becoming more desirable experience. There's more interesting like scents as well. Like there's this brand Corpus I've spoken to in the past. They started out just by making natural deodorants. Now they do both hair and body care. And they're not cheap. I mean, it's like $30 for a conditioner, which is a lot. But it's a beautiful experience. The packaging is really wonderful. You put it in your shower. The smell is great. It feels great. And I think for, once people get a taste of that and they kind of see like, oh, you can buy hair and body care outside of the drugstore aisle, it becomes addictive, I guess, and it's hard to kind of stop there.
That makes perfect sense. So, okay, one more question for you, Emily. What are these dupe fragrance brands? I know this is continuing for the last few quarters, I would say, maybe even longer, of just being this huge trend. But what are these dupe fragrance brands, and why do you think that they're appealing to young consumers?
Yeah, these dupe fragrance brands are everywhere, and this might just be my social media feeds in my algorithm, but I have gotten so many targeted ads for these, and I see a lot of influencers talking about them. So these are brands like Dossier is a big one, or Okcha, where their whole business model is just built on very explicitly saying, like, we are selling cheaper versions of those high-end fragrances that we've talked about, like Baccarat Rouge or Santal 33. And these are available for like $40, $50, $60. So a lot more accessible than like a $250, $300 fragrance. And there's a lot of interest from consumers in buying these and testing these and kind of sharing with their followers or their audience, like, do they smell as good as the original? Do they pass muster? And I think that, as we've seen in makeup with like e.l.f., kind of, having a whole brand built around dupes of higher end products, like younger consumers are not ashamed of buying something that's like a copy or a knockoff. It's almost this point of like, yeah, if I'm getting the quote unquote real, close to the real thing, or a version of the real thing, but for cheaper, it almost feels like a win for them. And it's becoming a lot more mainstream. Like Target launched their private label fragrance line Finery. I think it was last year, 2022, that again, these are all built around copies of higher end fragrances that you would buy maybe at Sephora or the department store. And they're available for like $20, $30 at Target. And it kind of, I think, again, it plays on that desirability of the high end sector and the value end of like the more mass sector. So it's kind of hitting both of these polarized extremes.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I haven't tried Finery yet, but I've heard good things. I think that Mesa, the incubator, did that one. Yeah. Oh, so fascinating. Okay, wait, I have to say, one of the things that I've been getting on social, I also, Emily, like you, I also get served ads all the time for dupe fragrances, but I've been getting dupe hand wash lately, like basically a dupe for like the Aesop, like scrubby hand wash guy. And basically like the ads are, I can't remember what brand it is, but I think there's a few now doing it. But basically they're targeting people and they're like, you already have the bottle from Aesop, so just buy our refill. No, really. And pour it in and it'll be like the same scrubby, wonderful experience, same scent, like same everything. And like no one will know. Kind of.
That is wild.
Yeah. And I was like, that. I mean, I was tempted to do it because I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot less. I haven't, but I mean, maybe I will. But I mean, yeah, I think that we're going to continue to see this like duping happening from all sectors. So maybe as prestige body care expands, we're just going to keep getting, more dupe options. But so interesting. Okay, so next we're going to go to discuss a little bit of the latest data insight report from Launch Metrics. This one is an AI-powered brand performance cloud that helps brands to execute their strategies with software and tons of data insights about the industry. So Tatiana, you reviewed this one for today's call. What did you learn?
Yeah, so I found some really interesting pieces of information regarding how beauty is, as we've already explained, a growing industry despite some of the economic slowdowns because of the pandemic. And there are some brands that are winning due to really strategic marketing strategies, influencers who are excelling in this space as well. So just a general overview that I found interesting. Some of the data that Launch Metrics found was that beauty is projected to reach nearly $580 billion in market value by 2027, with an expected annual growth rate of 6% in 2023. Well, starting in 2023. And the buzz around beauty, it's very impressive as we've seen, as we reported on. The industry has witnessed about 12% increase in media impact value in the first half of 2024 alone. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And then also, upon further digging into the report, I learned that the U.S. is actually currently the biggest region driving media impact value in the first half of 2024. So far, it has accounted for nearly $2.2 billion worth of MIV compared to the second leading region, which is China, which contributed to about $1.2 billion in media impact value. And to no surprise, I think we've covered this, again, very extensively and thoroughly in Glossy reporting. Influencers have played a pivotal role during the first half of 2024. They've contributed to about 62% of media impact value. However, surprisingly, what I thought was the most interesting takeaway from this is that TikTok actually isn't the biggest social platform. It's actually Instagram, which is the biggest social channel. And I think that this is something that we kind of have been drawing that conclusion to from the first half, especially around the discussions of what's happening with TikTok in regards to this ongoing battle in government, whether or not it'll be banned in the U.S., and what does that look like for brands if TikTok is banned. In actually a few months, the decision will be ruled in a few months. So yeah, it was a lot of interesting information. Launch Metrics provided a lot of data in regards to which brands are really excelling and resonating with consumers, whether it be through impactful marketing strategies or really strategic celebrity ambassadors. And one thing that I do want to note, because we've been talking a lot about the rise of celebrity-founded brands, it seems that color cosmetic celebrity-founded brands are still leading the charge. What Launch Metrics found in the first half of 2024 was that Fenty Beauty was the number one celebrity brand with over $400 million in media impact value. And Rare Beauty, Kylie Cosmetics, Rhode, and House Labs followed, rounding out the top five.
That's so interesting. And I feel like that makes a lot of sense because, like, if you are a diehard celebrity fan of someone who put out a line, and there's also like, I feel like there's like a point of pride to like maybe having the lipstick or like a brow gel or something in your purse and like pulling it out, like you're part of this community. But you don't get that same effect with the shampoo in your shower. Like no one really knows if you're using Beyonce's shampoo, but like they're gonna know if you're using like a Selena Gomez lipstick.
Absolutely. I definitely think, like you said, certain products have become a status symbol. When we talk about Rhode, for instance, when she dropped the phone case, you know, you've seen people have their Rhode lipstick and they're inside of their Rhode case and they're posting it on Instagram or TikTok. And it's really become like, I'm in the know because I have this celebrity brand, a part of my beauty routine. And again, it connects the community, but it also essentially drives more media impact value as well.
Yeah, I think what you're saying also tracks around like the whole like battle between TikTok and Instagram. I think it really tracks too with what I feel like a lot of people on our team have been saying in our Slack channel, which is that the younger shoppers are starting to almost like dislike TikTok or sort of like pull away from TikTok because of TikTok Shop. And they feel like it's sort of like changed the platform or maybe ruined the platform. I don't know how widespread that opinion is, but I definitely have been hearing it.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, in regards to that, I'm very interested to see how the second half of this year is going to play out because we've been reporting in the last month and a half or so, a lot of brands are actually transitioning to TikTok Shop. They're launching stores, you know, they're really going all in on their TikTok Shop platforms. So I'm very interested to see if that will essentially play a role into TikTok's prominence or if people are going to continue to kind of move away from the shop because of the overload or fatigue and continue to, you know, interact on Instagram instead.
Mm-hmm. That will be really interesting. We'll see what happens over holiday too, because I feel like if brands are going to make that transition, it's like now is the time so they can get everything loaded before Q4 starts.
Totally. That's a really good point. I've actually been already seeing a lot of holiday pitches and content slowly trickling in.
Oh my gosh, holiday. Oh, it's too soon. It is too soon.
Soon. I agree.
No, yeah. Tatiana, I'm curious, did they talk at all in this report about sort of what the top performing brands or what those brands are for the first half?
Yeah, so they listed out the top 20, but just for timing's sake, I will share the top 5. So the top 5 were in order from number 1 to number 5 were Dior, L'Oreal, Charlotte Tilbury, MAC, and Maybelline. And I think, you know, if you are chronically online or you're doing this type of work that we're doing, you kind of agree with this top 5 list. I've seen these brands in different capacities online everywhere. Specifically for me and my own personal interest and as a consumer, the brands that I love the most, MAC especially, I think they've had quite a year. Thinking from now to July of last year when you have the Tube Girl, for instance, how that really blew up with MAC or Charlotte Tilbury and how they've been really strategic with partnering with influencers and just showing up in a really authentic way online. I think these brands that rounded out the top 5, they've really been exemplary in terms of like really strategic social marketing.
Yeah, I love too what you said about the divide between TikTok and Instagram, Tatiana. TikTok has been so dominant that it's, I think, important to still look at what's going on Instagram and what's happening there. I'm curious with like how influencers are actually interacting, like what types of content are resonating with their consumers? Like how are they actually like packaging, you know, how they're talking about beauty?
Yeah. So I would credit this, I guess, to like the Alex Earls or the Monet McMichaels of the world for kind of making this get ready with me content more mainstream. I think that is the number one, but it is the number one form of content right now that is driving media impact value. And then that's going to be followed by makeup tutorials. So you have, for instance, Michaela, who is known for doing these really cool and relatable and easy makeup tutorials. She's partnered with a lot of the brands that I mentioned in terms of the top 5 performing brands. And then lastly, to round out the top three, you have those product reviews. So I think, one of the reasons why influencers are really driving of the top trusted voices is because, they're doing these product reviews and they're sharing their unbiased, well, we'd hope to be their unbiased opinions of products, whether or not, they are effective. And you're thinking about, for instance, the Euphoria controversy, how there were so many influencers getting online and sharing that, their makeup foundation shade ranges weren't super inclusive. And we saw how significant of an impact that had on the brand.
Yes, I remember that. That was like definitely a point where I think showing the value of influencers, as you said, and like when they are honest, people really do listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. Tatiana, based on the report, what do you think are sort of like the emerging marketing trends and strategies that brands are really leaning in from and are getting success from?
Yeah, so I think from what I've read from this report, it still seems that brands are leaning heavily on celebrity partnerships, but I think they're doing it in a way that feels a bit more strategic and a bit more authentic to the brand. So they're not necessarily going for that really big celebrity anymore for that shock value. They're really doing deeper research and reporting, and I'm assuming listening to their consumers to figure out who is more aligned with their voice and their brand messaging, or even the product launch itself, and going that route versus trying to get that splashy name, because that doesn't always resonate with consumers. And I also think that they're leaning heavily on video first content. Even though Instagram seems to be edging out TikTok in terms of what's resonating on social channel wise, they're still leaning heavily on reels. And a lot of times these brands are repurposing those reels and putting them on TikTok. And then, I also think they're really leaning into authentic cultural moments. So one of the brands that rounded out the top 20 was Pat McGrath. And we can, date back to her partnership with Margiela and how much of a conversation driver that iconic, that makeup look that she did for their runway, that their couture runway drove, and how, a lot of that look translated to the Met Gala. So as long as brands can continue a conversation, our cultural conversation, they're really looking for ways to find their moments. And then also, I think they're looking to really strategic partnerships too. So, for instance, again, dating back to Pat McGrath partnering with Margiela, who can they partner with? Or, what other brands can they partner with, or what influencers can they partner with that really makes sense for the brand? So I think the general takeaway is authenticity will forever be key, and it's just figuring out ways in which you can do that where it doesn't kind of seem schemy or gimmicky.
So true. That Pat McGrath example is such a good one. I feel like we were all like waiting with bated breath to like see how they were going to sort of like run with that look and turn it into an even bigger moment, and they killed it.
It did. And I specifically remember we talked about some of those Met Gala winners, and we referenced Pat McGrath's Margiela look that a makeup artist actually did on, I believe it was Taylor, that actress Taylor's face. I'm not mistaken. I forget whose face it was.
I can't remember either, but I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the perfect little like an inspiration, right? And I can't remember who the artist was, but I remember they called out that they were inspired by Pat McGrath as well.
And actually, it was Zendaya's face. It was
that's right.
The eyebrows, the glass makeup.
Yes. Look. Oh, and it was Raul. God, what is his last name? The makeup artist. I love him. His work is so good. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, he killed it. Raul Alejandre.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's amazing. So talented. Oh, cool. Okay. Well, I'm really glad to hear some of these takeaways, because I'm going to cover our last report today. And a lot of it like kind of overlapped, which I really love when that happens, because then you know that the data is actually sort of like coming from more than one place. So I'll dive into that one. So for the last one, we're doing an AI focused report from Dash Hudson. So if you don't know, Dash Hudson is they sort of sell themselves as an all-in-one social media management platform for brands that has, because of everything they do, they have an incredible amount of data around consumer behavior. And this is the third report that they put out like this. And they actually also partnered with Nielsen IQ, a big market research company. You might remember Nielsen IQ because they used to do all of the TV ratings. So they have a tremendous amount of data, and they also have access to like sales figures somehow around, big box stores, DTC, like they know what's selling and what's not. So there are three main takeaways that I found from this Dash Hudson report that just came out. And the first one is that edutainment, so a brand's basically how well they're doing their entertainment that also educates online, has been a huge factor in driving sales. And I know that it's really challenging for marketers to often connect commerce to their campaigns on social media, but this data really shows the importance of it. So they looked at 150 beauty brands over the course of 1 year. Now, Dash Hudson had already given each brand what they call an entertainment score, and that's basically a proprietary score that measures engagement and retention on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, after that 1 year of monitoring 150 brands, they found that brands with a score of 5 or better had a 67% increase in sales over that year. So there really are driving sales. And the company's case studies, for anyone who's listening, who wants to kind of like pop on to social media and compare what these brands are doing, not really a surprise, but Sol de Janeiro, Rare Beauty, and Starface. And of course, Starface is that really cute brand with the acne stickers in different shapes. So adorable and great for social media, of course. But I do think that this data is really important to be able to connect entertaining content online, which we know is what's driving a lot of sales for brands, with actual sales. Now, the next thing that I found interesting in here is how different creators at different sort of like levels, based on followers, of course, are best utilized by brands today. So, of course, we know a few years ago, it became more popular to have micro influencers, but it's like, now that we're a few years into this, like, what is everyone doing? So they found that creators, not surprising, of course, but creators get 12 times more engagement than brand content. And within the same data matrix, they found that nano creators are best for increasing engagement rates. So if that's your KPI, you need nano creators, while larger creators actually get more engagements by volume. So if you need more engagements by volume, it's larger creators. They also found during their report that mid-level creators is sort of where you get that best peak across all of the different KPIs. And then, of course, larger macro creators are the ones that are really driving followers in terms of volume. So not necessarily super surprising, but it is interesting to kind of like see it broken down. And then they also found, as part of this, that creators, of course, beat brands in nearly every metric on Instagram on average, including engagement rate, which was 3.5% on average versus 0.3% for brands. Total engagements is more than double for creators at 6,700 on average versus 3,000 on average for a post. And then effectiveness, and this one is a really, really big one. So effectiveness actually covers shares and saves. So if you're looking to increase shares and saves, you really need creators. That's a 65% of effectiveness for creators versus 4.8% for brands. So big difference there. And of course, just further cementing the value of creators for all kinds of digital marketing strategies. And then the last thing that I found that I thought was really interesting is that the spending is slowly going up on creators. So about 19% of total advertising spent so far in 2024 was on social media campaigns. So that's actually like a pretty small amount, I would say, based on how powerful social is. But within retail, which is the largest driver, of course, nearly 3/4 of marketers worldwide, they plan to increase their advertising spend on social platforms in the future. So again, that's not super surprising either, especially with holiday coming up and the just continued value of social media. But it is something to kind of know that that is where the market is going. And then the last little stat that I'll share is that U.S. social media creator revenues will total $13.7 billion this year, which is a 16.5% increase over 2023. So creators are making more money, significantly more money. I'm not sure if it's actually, making or, enriching specific influencers or if it's more spread across, but definitely seeing that the creator-driven economy and all the creator-driven content that deeply resonates with audiences will continue.
I'm curious, Lexi, similar to what Tatiana was saying about TikTok is a little maybe unsure where it's going to go, but what are they saying around TikTok Shop? I feel like I don't really understand TikTok Shop, and it feels very QVC to me. Do they have any insight onto that?
Yeah, definitely. So they have a couple of things here I'll point out. More than 1/3 of Gen Zers, so that's age 18 to 26, and 37% of millennials said that they've made at least one purchase on TikTok Shop. So that's pretty big. And then also in 2024, TikTok has emerged as the 9th largest beauty e-commerce retailer in the US market. But the big surprising thing is that it is the second largest beauty retailer in the UK market, which I thought was really fascinating. And they also have a little bit of data around sort of how it's sort of grown. So if you look back, so they have a ranking, TikTok Shop e-commerce ranking among total US online beauty and wellness retailers. And it's pretty crazy because last year in August of 2023, it was ranked number 22 in terms of beauty retailers. Then it went up to 19, then 16, and it continued to grow. And then since December to February, it's gone up an additional 3 spots. And now it's at number 9, which I think really does. I guess if I were to predict what's happening next, I feel like TikTok is just going to go full e-com and just really double down on this. And of course, they'll still have content. But yeah, with the rate that it's growing, I don't really see it slowing down.
I'm just blown away by how big the creator economy is, and it seems and it feels like it's growing more and more by the day. I'm curious, just for my own curiosity, who do they list as the biggest TikTok creators?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this one shook me. If you look at beauty and wellness brands and how many mentions, how many UGC pieces of content, how much stuff is going on to TikTok around them, it's brands that you've never heard of. So the number one, maybe we've heard of them, but it's not like Rhode, it's not like Rare Beauty, it's not who you think. So the number one with 173 million pieces of content is a brand called Guru Nanda, which is like an oral health brand, and their big product is an oil pulling product. The second one is from a brand called My Smile, and it's a teeth whitening kit, and that has 62 million pieces of content. So big jump from 173 million all the way to 62 million. So this Guru Nanda is killing it. I've read a few articles about the founder, and he very openly tells the media that he is the number one selling brand on TikTok Shops as well. I'm not sure if that's actually true or not. Probably was at one point. Maybe it still is. Not quite sure, but definitely something to look into if you're looking for TikTok Shop inspiration. And then the third one is sorry, go ahead.
No. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was going to say, I remember distinctly having a conversation with Jill about that. I'm like, I've seen oil pulling everywhere. What is going on? That makes total sense. Thank you.
So yeah, it's so interesting. I've tried oil pulling. I wish I liked it, but I couldn't get into it. It was just too much for me, but maybe I'll go back to it. Now I'm inspired. And then the third one is a lash brand. So of course, these all things make sense, right? They're all very visual, but the third one is a lash brand from Yves Beauty, with 47 million pieces of content. The third one is Latafa Yara. I actually don't even know what this one is. I realize that right now. So wait, let me look up. Oh, it's a perfume. Okay. So the fourth one is Lattafa Yara perfume. And then finally, a brand that we cover all the time in the fifth top spot, which is Tarte. And they have a Maracuja Juicy Lip Plump. And that has been the biggest driver. So obviously right now we're talking about hero products really driving a lot of this content, but there is a really interesting little factoid about Tarte, which is they had one creator, Rose Ciard, and she had contributed a large part of this with just a video about the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip Plump. And she's basically just trying it on in the shade Rose, like very neutral, very flattering. And her engagement rate on this was 9.6%. And she got almost 4 million video views. So I think that it just kind of shows that you really need that hero product, and you need to really cast a wide net, get it to a lot of people, a lot of creators, to kind of have that success. Super interesting stuff here. Yeah. Thank you guys all so much for listening. I really appreciate all of the amazing feedback, and so appreciate that we can get together and have all of our amazing reporters share so much great information. We are here every Wednesday, except not the last 2 weeks, but we'll be back. But we'll be here next Wednesday with another fun topic. So please RSVP and check out glossy.co. We have tons of great reporting all about these type of topics, and we will see you all next time.